Hi everyone! You all have probably heard the heart-melting story of Hachiko, the dog who has been waiting for its deceased owner for almost 10 years. Hachiko became a symbol of loyalty. People remember and praise him. Have you ever wondered whether unconditional love for the owner is something that is inherent to every dog? Hachiko's story is amazing, but not unique. Right now, dozens of dogs around the world are patiently waiting for their owners, not knowing whether they will return or not. They don't need any other person in the whole world. Today, we will tell you stories that are no less moving than the story of an Akita dog from Japan. Let's get it on. There is an incredible bond between those who experienced the horrors of war together. It is difficult to describe it in words. Moreover, not only humans can develop such a bond. Taylor is the golden Labrador who served America all her life. Tay-Tay, aka Princess Taylor, served several tours in Afghanistan, where she protected Sergeant Tom Hansen and his fellow soldiers. When the soldiers retire and go home, they are separated from the dogs they lived with during the longest and most dangerous months of their lives. That is what happened with Taylor and Tom. In the end, when the dog is no longer serving, it could get adopted by the soldier it served with. However, this process is very complicated and, most importantly, expensive. It can cost several $1,000s. Thankfully, a woman named Molly Oliver had the money. She also loves arranging happy reunions of dogs and their owners. June 2016 was the last month Taylor spent in her military kennel. While on board the airplane, she did not even suspect she would reunite with the man she had not seen for several years. Taylor missed her owner a lot and waited for this moment since they'd been separated. In Afghanistan, Tom protected Tay-Tay from bullets, and she found bombs under his feet. These two saved each other's lives many times. Finally, the 2 endless years of waiting were over. The sergeant says, "It's like a part of me has been missing, and getting her back now, it will make me whole again." It's impossible to look at the reunion of former soldiers and their best friends without tears.
Tay-Tay! Tay-Tay!
Every year, a huge number of lost dogs wander the streets. Unfortunately, their way home proves to be much longer and more difficult than it would seem. No one knows exactly how this dog named Jingu ended up completely alone in the park. He looked into the face of every man who passed by, and most importantly, he did not leave the spot where people first saw him. Very soon, it was clear that Jingu was lost and was waiting for his owner. Since people are constantly losing their favorite pets, sometimes it seemed that luck finally smiled at the dog again. There were some people who have lost their dogs too, and they looked like Jingu. But every time they would call out to the waiting dog, he would not respond. He looked sad and would often run away when approached, but he always returned to the same spot. Staying in the park was not safe for Jingu. There were too many cars around. Sooner or later, the dog could get run over. So Jingu was caught and taken to the shelter. During his stay there, Jingu did not take his eyes off the door. It seemed that he still didn't want to give up his past life and continued to wait for his owner. But then, the miracle happened. When the dog finally heard the voice of his owner, there was no doubt. Of course, he recognized him. For the first time ever, the staff of the shelter saw Jingu happy. He was wagging his tail and jumping at the fence that separated him from his owner. This is the story of a dog who had many chances to start a new life and a new family. However, Jingu only wanted his owner, and he was lucky to be reunited with him. Dogs do not choose their owners and love them regardless of their flaws. Unfortunately, this is the very reason why stories like this happened. In June 2012, the residents of Kaohsiung, Taiwan, saw the dog that was sitting on the side of the road. Someone saw how the dog got here. It was a rainy day. A man drove to the side of the road on a motorcycle and dropped the dog. When he drove off, the dog tried to catch up with its owner. However, the man pushed the pet away and ordered it to sit still. That's how the agony of waiting began for the dog named Xiao Huang. He waited for his owner in the same spot for 2 years. The dog did not leave the spot where he was dropped. He sat and waited for the owner in any weather, but he was especially agitated when it was raining. Apparently, it reminded him of the day when he last saw his owner. At one point, Xiao Huang apparently caught sight of a motorcyclist that looked like his former owner and chased after him, but ended up breaking one of his legs. Locals tried to feed the dog whenever possible, but he showed no interest in food. Only 2 years later, the city's association Association in charge of aiding stray animals was able to come and finally save the abandoned dog. They caught the dog and took it to the shelter. They examined it and started the treatment. The dog had some serious, but not lethal diseases. Xiao Huang was unlucky to be owned by a bad person who didn't deserve his devotion and love, but we are sure that the next owner will appreciate his loyalty. Sometimes, even 2 weeks of waiting can feel like an eternity. The time this dog spent without his owner was the longest in his life. This dog was spotted for the first time in early February 2016 in a residential area of Houston, USA. The dog stayed close to a certain building and spent the night next to the door of one of the apartments. When cars were passing by, the dog always ran out onto the road and made them stop. The dog was looking at people's faces as if searching for someone. The cars kept passing by, and the dog looked desperate and lonely. This German Shepherd was waiting for its owner, a 54-year-old man named Hatem Abu Harbid, but the dog didn't know he could never come back, as he was shot to death during a robbery of the store he worked at. It will take a long time for the unfortunate animal to start trusting people again. A local resident somehow managed to earn the dog's trust, put a collar on it, and get it to the shelter, away from the place where there was nothing for the poor dog but endless waiting. Residents of the Korean town where this story happened agree. They have never seen a dog capable of crying. No one knew where this dog came from. He appeared near a small restaurant out of nowhere. No one knew where his owners were, what he has seen, and most importantly, why he kept crying. Some kind people gave the dog an umbrella so that he would not have to sit in the pouring rain. After all, he guarded this door every day and night in any weather. When people tried to take him and carry him away, he returned and sat down at his usual spot, as if he knew something everyone else didn't and waited patiently for it. Everyone around fell in love with the dog and his charming little face, and of course, the locals began to feed him. However, the dog ate reluctantly, and only when hunger became almost unbearable. The worst thing is that the dog was not a stray. It was clean, well-groomed, and if you look closely, you could see the fur trimmed on its sides. Why? And who decided to get rid of it? When it became clear that the owner would not return for the dog, it was taken to a special shelter. Like all other animals, this one was checked by vets. Turns out it had been carrying a heartworm for quite a long time. All this time he had to endure the pain. The eyes of the dog were absolutely healthy. The vet suggested that the cause of the tears was the emotional distress and horrors that the animal had seen on the streets. It was clear that the dog was abandoned at a very tough time when he got sick. We hope his owner was not evil, but simply could not afford the expensive treatment. In any case, the dog was cured, and then they found a new owner for it. Now it will never have to cry again. Our last story for today proves that not only dogs can become attached to their owners. Turns out that sometimes abandoned cats patiently wait for the return of their owner. In December last year, passers-by found a cat in the park. This is not an uncommon situation, but the problem was that cats definitely never lived in that park. No one has seen this fluffy white handsome cat here before. The cat looked sad. He sat on a pile of dry leaves and did not want to leave his spot. Visitors started bringing food to the cat. He accepted treats, and very soon it became clear that the animal was once an indoor cat. He loved being pet and enjoyed the attention people gave him. Very soon, people noticed that the belly of the cat was getting bigger. The visitors of the park immediately called the vet and wondered if the cat was pregnant and expecting kittens. But the vet said that this was definitely a male cat, and his belly grew because people overfed the animal. They gave him too much food, and he did not refuse a single treat, so he gained some weight. Also, judging by the cat's behavior, the vet suggested that the animal is about 2 years old and is clearly waiting for his owner. Apparently, he took the cat to the park in a pet carrier, released the animal, and then left. Animals do not expect betrayal from their owners. That is why the cat did not leave the park and sat on the very spot where he was abandoned and waited for the owner to return. But the park visitors understood that waiting was meaningless. The man abandoned his cat, and this animal needed a chance for a new life. We hope that this cute cat will find a new owner and a new home, and he will never be left in the middle of the forest again. This is it for today. See you soon.